Welcome to the 1457 podcast. I'm Stevie. I am your resident golf nut, golf fanatic, functioning golfing addict. Scotland, where golf began, which is our umbrella organisation. It's a dynamic digital platform and inspiring golfers near and far with our eye-catching photography, wonderful short films, and now some brilliant podcasts. We look to inspire golfers from across the world to visit the Scottish shores. And this week, my co-pilot this week is Malcolm Duck. Good evening to you, Malcolm.
Good evening, young man, Stevie.
Malcolm, I challenged you the last time to give us 5 words to describe yourself for those that have not met you before.
5 words. A duck. Love hospitality, love people, wine them and dine them in Scotland's Gulf Coast, East Lothian.
It's more 5 words, well, I'll let you off. And our guest this week is Bruce from Cookie Jar Golf. Good evening to you, Bruce.
Hi, Stevie. Hi, Mr. Duck. Great to be with you.
Hey, Bruce.
Bruce, I noticed a brilliant line on the website talking about yourself. It said, without the burden of a wife or long-term partner, his commitment to golf is unwavering.
Well, actually, I've gotten a bit of hot water about that since I'm now in a relationship. My girlfriend spotted that on the website and said, excuse me, can you please get this edited? But yes, that is my bio. Correct.
Well, I mean, Ducky and I long for that, the unburdening.
So does Mrs. Duck.
Well, fortunately, I am dating a golfer, so I've still managed to keep up a healthy number of rounds on the weekend playing together. But yeah, that was a cause of some amusement when she read that.
So for those who've not heard of Cookie Jar Golf, do you want to give us a sort of little sort of explainer as to what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I guess Cookie Jar Golf is a social media platform, podcast, videography channel that myself and Tom Mills and Sam Williams founded back in February 2020 now. And we really just started out as kind of, as you described it on the intro there, Stevie, as 3 golf nuts who really enjoyed talking about golf and course architecture and the professional game, the amateur game, history, all of it. And we thought, well, doesn't really seem to be too much in the way of a kind of British channel covering those topics out there. Why don't we just give it a bit of a crack and see how we get on? More than anything, I think it was just to sort of provide an outlet for our own enthusiasm and an interest. And yeah, fortunate enough to generate a little bit of a following on the podcast side of things, and then really started moving into the films and looking at evolution of some great courses and clubs throughout the British Isles, really. And with the support of yourselves at Scotland, where golf began, and coming up and doing some filming in collaboration with yourselves, really just kind of gone from there and enjoyed sort of steady growth on the following side of things, and just talking about golf, putting people together who are similarly enthusiastic about golf and course architecture, history, the professional game. And that really kind of culminated in running a couple of events last year where, after so many months sort of dealing with COVID and not being able to socialize and meet up with people who we'd connected with digitally, it's been really nice to finally meet some of those people and put names to Instagram handles and Twitter handles and the rest of it, really. So I guess, yeah, that's a sort of short summary.
You do that with a couple other guys. Tell us about them.
Yeah. So Sam and Tom, I think Sam, to his credit, he was probably the one with the huge amount of enthusiasm and really said, I think we should start talking about this on air, guys. When, Tom and I are maybe a bit more cautious, and he's just the sort of enthusiastic character who's known for sort of running the social channels and putting out all manner of brilliant and not so brilliant takes on the podcast. Tom is our resident videography and photography expert. And yeah, I mean, the 3 of us, we're all close friends, played a lot of golf at Blackwell Golf Club, our home club. And that's really how we got to know one another. And yeah, with a combination of Tom's expertise on the technical side of things and Sam and I, really enjoying the history and putting together some of the sort of narrations and stories that maybe shape some of the films. I think we've just had a brilliant time over the last 18 months or so.
Does anyone do it full time in the team?
No. The 3 of us are all sort of juggling jobs on the side as well. I was the sort of student of the group who had dragged out being a student for far too long. But no, I've also started work as of about 12 weeks or so ago. And we're all sort of juggling jobs on the side. But I mean, we've really enjoyed the journey we've been on so far, and obviously keen to keep going and pushing on into 2022 and beyond.
Well, what are you up to now then?
We've got a few interesting projects in the pipeline for 2022, really. I mean, this year we've really enjoyed collaborating with yourselves on the Old Tom Morris series. I think that was a huge project and a great commemoration, given it being his bicentenary. So it's 200-year celebration of his birth and all that he's done for the game. So just the film side of things, and also looking at him with a few podcast specials. And I guess with this time of year, slightly less golf to be played in the UK, shorter days, not able to film quite as much. We're focusing more on the podcast side of things, and obviously there's some very interesting developments there too with the professional game and the reshaping of the European Tour into the DP World Tour. So hoping to line up some interesting sort of guest episodes on that side of things, really, in the coming months.
Having spent all that time at university, what are you actually doing now to kind of earn a crust and be one of the working?
So I'm training to become a solicitor. So that's what I've kind of been studying towards over the last few years. So as Sam likes to remind me, there's quite a few solicitors who've gone into golf course architecture or some sort of golf course or golf administration. So I don't know whether I'll end up finding my way back into golf later down the line. But yeah, that's the plan so far. Just trying to get used to the I guess normal working life, really. And
Tom was he was a kind of wedding videographer, wasn't he?
So yeah, still is.
Quite a long time.
Yeah, no, he's terrific at what he does. He's extremely talented, and he's been a wedding videographer for a number of years now. And I think he's obviously been able to do a lot more of that over the last few months as things have restrictions have eased on the COVID side of things. I guess his expertise is just invaluable, really, on that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, he's brilliant, and Sam is. I don't know what you say about Sam. I met you guys early on when you came up, when they were kind of before you were just the three of you. I very well remember Sam sitting in the bar, being Sam. The mouth was going 16 to the dozen. I think when the first half hour, I said to Sam, you got 2 ears and one mouth. Yeah. You have to just to use them in proportion. And you guys just fell about laughing.
Oh, we remind of that now. We do remind me of that. Yeah. Yeah. I think it really helps coming from, the same golf club and just being friends first and foremost. I know, there's obviously quite a few sayings about going into business and friends and how that can go one way or the other. But, I think the three of us do really get on well, and we've got slightly different strengths. Obviously, Tom on the technical side of things is fantastic with, his expertise and just a real sense of the logistical kind of restraint or demands on some of the projects that we're kind of considering going forward, and the ability to just, turn things around at pretty frightening speed in the edit room as well. So yeah, and then Sam, as I kind of mentioned earlier, he's just so unbelievably enthusiastic, and just as you mentioned there, Ducky, with that anecdote, 100 miles an hour, a lot of good ideas and a couple of harebrained ones that maybe don't quite pan out so well. But he's on the sort of business development side of things, I guess, if you were to call it that, and reaching out to a lot of clubs and potential sponsors. He's just got a huge amount of energy and a great vision as well for things. And I guess, on the detailed analytical side of things, I'd like to think that, having dragged out being a student in history and then law for far too many years to want to talk about live on air, I do enjoy kind of looking at the stories of, these golf clubs and how they've developed over time. And I think that's really what we started when we started doing the Story of a Golf Club series, was really just trying to think of how we could maybe offer a slightly fresh take on course videography, seeing what's out there on YouTube. There's a lot of great stuff, but we felt we could maybe just talk more about the evolution of these clubs and focus a bit more on, the traditions and the attributes that make these places great, and some of the amazing cast of characters that are associated with these really historic places, some of which you kind of take for granted, really. And I've loved digging into some of that research, and, then through the combination of the three of us, trying to bring that to life on film.
This kind of leads into Old Tom. The films, go watch the films that Cookie Jar have done on Old Tom Morris. They were commissioned by Scotland Where Golf Began, and a big shout out to Scottish Golf to help with some funding on that. So that was really great for Scottish Golf to try and help that for their clubs. What's the effect on Old Tom, do you think, in golf and golf architecture?
Well, I mean, I think the legacy of Old Tom, it's he really does become a statesman of the game by the end of his life. I think, really, to go back to the beginning, he's the son of a weaver, comes from a very, very sort of humble background. Golf, I guess, was back then played by a lot of the sort of, even up in Scotland, played by the sort of gentrified kind of types in and around St Andrews. And Tom, through his amateur career, and not his amateur career, but his caddying and caddying for top amateurs, and then playing as a professional in the challenge matches with the likes of Alan Robertson, and then later on with young Tommy Morris. I think he really has a huge impact in growing the game from that standpoint. But then, of course, he goes over to Prestwick, He's instrumental in the design of Prestwick there, lays out the first 12 holes. There's a lot of greenkeepers out there now who still talk about top dressing and putting a healthy amount of sand on greens, and really saying that begins with old Tom Morris accidentally spilling, a barrel of sand on one of the greens at Prestwick. So there's the greenkeeping element too. As a course architecture maybe is a slightly premature word to be using around that time, but he, the number of courses that bear his name that he, at least laid out the initial routing of it's just a ridiculous list. Not only just the geographical kind of scale of it, but the Open Championship venues like Muirfield that he'd been to, the kind of iconic places such as Royal Dornoch or Westwood Ho that are at opposite ends of the British Isles, and then of course the crowning achievement probably being the old course at St Andrews. So I think really by the end of his life he's become a real statesman of the game, and someone who's just happy to share his knowledge as well. The likes of Charles Blair MacDonald, who spend time with him as an apprentice in St Andrews and then go off and design a huge number of courses out in America. Sort of founding clubs of the USGA. It's the legacy of old Tom. I don't know if you can really just boil it down to his sort of course design side of things, because there's so much more to it. But it's been brilliant diving into some of that this year and learning a bit more about it.
So when you did the Old Tom Trail film, tell us about what courses you played.
Yeah, so we started out our first leg of the tour. We did Carnoustie, the Championship Licks in Carnoustie. We did the old course at St Andrews, and then we did the Balcomie at Crail. Yeah, the second leg we went further north, so we did Nairn, and then we also looked at Cullen, which was somewhere that had been on our radar as a result of seeing a No Laying Up video, and was just a really, really quirky course that was really, really fun to go and see and play, and quite rugged, and the quartzite rock formations there were quite interesting. And then the final leg, we started off in Prestwick. We did Prestwick, we did North Berwick, and then we went up and played Cruden Bay too. So I think we really covered quite a lot of Scotland.
You covered a few miles there,
yeah. No, the mileage was pretty high on those trips, but the diversity in the courses was pretty cool too, because not only were the courses that were really influential, I think, some of the courses were very influential in Tom's career, but then others such as Cullen, as I alluded to, somewhere that's very, very different to a Carnoustie, like the championship test that Carnoustie provides, or the quirkiness of Prestwick even is still quite different to Cullen, which is very different to the sort of championship links at Nairn, where they had the amateur this year. So there was a huge amount of variety, and yet they were all still kind of bound together by old Tom's influence and his legacy, really.
Your home course, Blackwell, whereabouts is that?
So that's in Worcestershire, just south of Birmingham.
So did you notice any difference in the attitudes towards golf, like compared to where you grew up playing the game and where you guys are members, compared to when you played in Scotland and in some of these sort of historic clubs? Yeah,
I think they're all quite different in a way. I think St Andrews and Carnoustie are perhaps broadly similar in terms of the sort of the ticket holder, the links sort of ticket holder structure that they have, where there's a few different local clubs and perhaps reflective of some of the sort of historical organisation of things, but very much courses where there's a sort of strong community feel, and they're really the sort of centerpieces of those towns, I think. Prestwick, I felt, was maybe a slightly more traditional members club. I say traditional, but traditional to what, us folks coming from England might see as a kind of traditional organisation of a golf club, but very much enjoys the foursomes tradition, two ball golf, and a nice long lunch as well, and a jacket and tie, sat down in a really amazing clubhouse with just history kind of pouring out of every corner. And then Nairn again, sort of quite different, long way north of those courses that I've just mentioned, but again, that sort of community feel of just a lot of people just absolutely so passionate about playing golf. And obviously it's produced so many great players up there, like, the Scott brothers, and also hosting Walker Cup events and prestigious amateur events too, such as the amateur this year. So yeah, I think a real variety, hard to really sum it up, but I think it's definitely interesting. When we were filming the first leg of that tour at St Andrews, Carnoustie and Crail, we were saying on the drive up, having recently just come out of lockdown, how it's just interesting to note the different attitudes that the government in Westminster had towards golf in England versus the Scottish government towards golf in Scotland, and how I think the fact that golf was probably allowed to go on being played all through Scotland throughout the winter months, mate. I think that's just shows that it's probably seen as more of an accessible and inclusive sport, perhaps in Scotland than maybe it is in England. I don't know. I think that's kind of what we sensed on the drive up, and it's just brilliant that it's so readily available at so many great clubs like that.
Stevie, I reckon Dave Kerr gave him a call. Dave's normally on the podcast with us because he's all St Andrews, the pinnacle with old Tom's thing there, and the community feel, and where's Scotland's golf course? Bruce, let me take you back to not your Tom Morris trip, but you came back up, and do you remember the round Gullen and the round at Kilspindie?
Oh, of course.
The round at Gullen. Now that you've got a young lady, you'll have to play a little bit faster. Do you want to tell us that story?
That was quite an amusing one. Yeah. So
now, Gullen ladies, this is funny. So it's not a crack about you.
Yeah. I mean, this was, I think, to set the scene. So we started Cookie Jar in February 2020, and then I guess summertime we started moving or adding the films and the storytelling side of things to the podcast that we've been doing for a few months by then. And Jamie Darling, shout out to Jamie for giving us that first big break, I guess, with coming up and filming quite a few courses up in Scotland and organising all of that. We had been pretty ambitious, I think, in trying to cram 2 rounds of golf in each day and filming sort of towards the end of October, really, where the daylight was becoming slightly problematic. So I think Gullen was probably would it have been the 3rd or 4th course, perhaps?
Yeah, I think so.
3rd or 4th course we played on that trip. So we'd kind of been getting into a bit of a rhythm of things by now. Yeah, I mean, we were playing half decent golf. Tom had the drone up. Sam and I had a couple of cameras capturing some of the ground shots, and we're making pretty good pace. And we came off the 13th tee box. Is it the 13th on Gullen 1, par 3, back down, I believe. And the ladies who were coming down the previous hole on the par 5 sort of gestured to us as we were walking down that tee box and said, "You're going to have to hurry up. You're going way too slow." At which point we, had the drone up in the sky. We had the cameras rolling and everything. We bit our tongues. We didn't want to, be too disrespectful towards our hosts. But anyway, we ended up finishing in around about 3 hours, which I thought for a 3-ball filming and playing a half decent sort of standard of golf was pretty good going. But yeah, that was a real awakening, certainly for Tom and Sam. I played a fair bit of golf in Scotland, being at uni in St Andrews, and I sort of was aware of how quick locals like to play. But Sam and Tom were pretty shocked by that.
Yeah, I mean, Gullen's a massively friendly club, and it's funny because when Scotland Golf began, we're looking to work with different people. We try and look at their work, and we saw Cookie Jar stuff, really liked it, and the fact you weren't known was actually quite good because 1 or 2 people have come and done stuff for us and have got a big break, and it's just great to see how well you're doing. But it was very funny, your reaction to that Kilspindie as well. You got a bit of a bollocking in the front tee because they've been playing in the members' times, but one of the committee guys didn't know. So I mean, Kilspindie is one of the friendliest clubs going. But the other thing is, clubs aren't used to this new way of doing things. They're not used to people filming and droning and all the rest of it. It's a real anathema to us because you don't take your phone in the golf course. You just concentrate on golf. So it's have you found that difficult? I mean, I don't understand how you guys can film and play golf and get it right so quickly. Tough to do.
Yeah, I think it is. It's something that we've definitely refined as time's gone on. But I think we're, again, coming from a fairly traditional club in the sense of liking the 2-ball format and playing in around about 3 hours or so and playing foursomes golf. I think we're all kind of aware that we wanted to keep a decent pace of play, and that's always been the priority. I mean, Sam, if you're out with us, you might see how seriously Sam can sometimes take some of the little competitions we have between the 3 of us. But no, even then, we're all pretty good at making sure we prioritize the filming and the capture of that footage over and above our own golf games, which is as it should be, because that we're ultimately there to create some good material for the clubs and people such as yourselves to use and put out there into the ether.
Well,
so do you have a favourite course in Scotland then? Because obviously you went to uni in Scotland in St Andrews, so you must have one that's close to your heart.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to.
It's got to be Lothian, otherwise you're.
Okay. No,
it doesn't actually.
I'm only joking.
Just ignore Malcolm.
No, but it would be. I think for me, if I loved Prestwick actually. The first time I played Prestwick was as part of the Old Tom series, and I had had a fantastic time. We were made to feel so welcome. The history in the clubhouse is amazing, and just the routing there is fantastic. I really enjoy that quirky side of links golf in Scotland, and that's definitely not to take anything away from the test of it, because I think it's still a fantastic test of golf as well, despite not hosting the Open anymore. I think people maybe go there under the false assumption that it's going to be fairly straightforward course, but it's still a fantastic test of golf, and I really enjoyed spending time there. But if I was to really boil it down to two, I would say for me it would be the old course at St Andrews and Muirfield. So there you go. There's one East Lothian.
Very diplomatic.
In there for you.
Very diplomatic, mate.
No, I think the old course, naturally, there's a lot of happy memories there and sort of sentimental attachment from finishing a lecture at uni and heading down there for 12 or 14 holes with friends, and just getting out there and playing it so much in so many different competitions, and having a few decent rounds there as well. And just, I think being at university there and playing it so much and having it right on your doorstep is just a wonderful place to play. And then Muirfield's kind of similar to Prestwick. It's that 2-ball foursomes golf, which is such a great way of meeting people and, having a really great time, and that balance of great company and getting to have a good laugh and a nice lunch with your playing partners, but also being pretty competitive too. And as a layout, I just think it's an absolutely fantastic test of golf. Yeah, it doesn't have the sort of crashing dunes and the vistas that you maybe have at some of the more modern courses that we see being built in recent times. But as a test of golf, I just think it's just the best going.
So I have you down in my contacts list as Cerberus. So why does everyone call you Cerberus? I could have many reasons.
Yeah,
no setup. This is me. This is just me. I got to ask you that. You weren't going to get away with that one.
I've tried my absolute hardest to have that introduction or that prefix, whatever you want to call it, ditched from the podcast intros, and I was steadily getting there. But Tom and Sam, I don't know whether it was. To be fair, it almost started before the podcast, really. So I don't even think it was just part of the sort of podcast persona or trying to make things interesting. But yeah, I've said over and over again, they got to stop calling me it. I don't want to be, last thing I want to be. Can I tell you why? Sort of accused of being impersonating a Knight of the Realm. And
I'll tell you why you're Cerberus, because you're a really nice guy. You're really good at what you do. You get on with it, and you're two great universities you've been at. So I think it's a term of endearment. I really would. I wouldn't worry, because I wouldn't have asked you if I was being nasty about it. Have you talked to me a bit about St Andrews? But St Andrews and Oxford, what kind of influence has that had on you? Two great universities, two very different places. Some people say St Andrews is one of the more anglicised University of Scotland. I'm not sure I agree. It's one of the oldest universities in the world. So they both are. So just wonder what you.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think I first visited St Andrews in 2005 to watch the Open. My mum and dad took the family along, and I just remember seeing it the first time then. It was that brilliantly hot summer, spending time on the beach down there, watching some of the golf. I was only 10 years old and in awe of the whole thing. That's when Tiger was at the peak of his powers, and ended up going back in 2009 because my sister started at university there. The more time I spent there visiting her and getting to play a bit of golf, I just realized how much I loved it. And for the degree I wanted to study in international relations and politics, it was a pretty good place to go to. And it's such a unique place, I think, because you have that kind of blend of, as you say, one of the oldest universities in the world, also being the center of golf outside of America, really, home of golf's governing body in the R&A, and, the place where the spiritual home of the Open. It's just a really interesting mix. And, you have so many tourists passing through there on a regular basis to play golf.
We're going to wrap this up very soon. I'm going to have one more question for you. So with Cookie Jar Golf, what is the next Scottish golf course you're going to be playing?
Oh, that's a tough one. Three of us all talked a bit about going to Machrihanish, actually.
Yeah.
That was something that we'd maybe looked at, because, again, I believe old Tom Morris had an influence or had a hand in the initial layout there, and just known for being a very, very picturesque place, and out on is it the Mull of Kintyre?
Yes.
Yeah. And that amazing bit of topography. Yeah, I think we'd all talked about going and playing there. So hopefully we can get across and do that maybe next year or at some point in the near future. But also Askanish, I think, would be a really nice place to go and visit, as somewhere that a friend of the podcast, Martin Ebert, I think had a big hand in restoring that to as almost like the original old Tom Morris design, and hearing about how he found that whole process of almost trying to rediscover like this kind of lost artifact. We'd love to go there too. But I mean, there's just, I feel like we've spent a lot of time in Scotland, and we've certainly, so many of our films have been shot in Scotland. But there's just still so much to cover. It's it's totally unsurprising that it has the highest number of golf courses per capita of anywhere in the world, given that we've played a lot there, but we've still got so much more to tick off.
Plenty to tick off the list. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was really interesting, and really appreciate it. And we look forward to more of your adventures in Scotland. We are www.scotlandwheregolfbegan.com. You can check us out on social at Where Golf Began, and you can email us at info@scotlandwheregolfbegan.com. And do you want to give us some of your call signs for the listeners if they want to get in touch with you then, Bruce?
Yeah, sure. We're just cookiejargolf.com, and you can also find us at that same address on Instagram and Twitter, just Cookie Jar Golf. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Stevie and Ducky. And you must send my best to JD as well. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support that you've given us over the last 18 months or so, and been brilliant. Catching up with you in person, Ducky. Hopefully get to do that soon with you, Stevie, over a beer at the Ducks. And playing a bit of golf as well. I think I forgot to mention, actually, when we were up filming North Berwick, part of the Old Tom series, Mr. Duck actually impersonated Old Tom himself, came out in the full sort of attire with the hickories slung over his shoulder. And yeah, we had
he loves that look.
Really great time. So
it's nae bad, son, nae bad.
It was brilliant, actually, because given that we were talking about the challenge match between the Morrises and the Parks, we're able to actually almost show this sort of Old Tom figure, in the flesh, strolling the fairways of North Berwick, as it really were, with the Ducks Mackenzie bag over the shoulder and the hickories in tow. So, but seriously, guys, thank you so much. It's
not a problem.
To have you.
All right, well, till next time. Cheers.